And just from this point on, I'm just going to keep noodling. Now that door really pops out, right? It's really pretty bright there, so I'm just going to dull this down a little bit, hit it and push it down a little. Come back in, pull a couple more highlights out of here. I got this wooden crate here that I want to be able to see. Alright, so just going to keep pushing some of these values here. I'm going to come over here and work on some of the detail over here. I have these like bowls sitting inside each other. Look like there could be stuff or junk in there. I'm going to put a little highlight in one of those bowls. See if I can pull them out a little bit more. Okay. And it's not that there's going to be a distinct highlight coming from a light source. It's just that, you know, objects have natural changes in them. We're going to be able to see some type of little change happening there. Let's just see if we can't help pop them over a little bit, darken the underneath, darken the inside a little bit. Okay. That. Pull the bowls out a little bit and then push them down a little bit. That highlight's really bright, so just smudge a little on top there. Come back up here and do the same thing on this a little bit here. A little bit of a highlight across the top of the wood there. A little bit of an edge on there. That pops the wood a little bit. Darken underneath it a teeny bit so it anchors it down a little. So you have a little highlight here. And you get on the edge of the table there. And I'm going to come back here and darken this up a little. So I have some students that don't have access to some, you know, a lot of money, or they can't afford a Cintiq or a Wacom, and so they want to know, like, how can I get into drawing and learn a lot about working in value and tone, and this is how. Use this technique. It's fantastic for this. Okay, I'm going to come in here, and even though this is where I'm going to cheat a little bit, I'm just going to put a little drop shadow off of this, coming down a little. This is going to help anchor it to the wall a little. Just like that. See that? Even with the rope hanging right here, I'm going to put a little shadow like there's light hitting here, bouncing backwards. Okay, like so. And I'm going to come back in here and darken this side underneath some of this hay here. And pull up a little bit of that hay. Okay, a nice highlight here. Darken underneath that highlight a little bit. So again, pushing, pulling shapes, values up and down, back and forth, okay? Starting to read pretty good. I like what's happening in here. I might come in and darken a little bit of thick and thin line on there, a little bit of detail. And what's great is that some of my line quality has been smudged, right? So after it's been smudged, I can come back and just put a little thick and thin line on it with using my pencil, and it helps to anchor stuff down. I'm going to make it a little dark back there. Alright, come back in here. And same thing here, I'm going to make it a little bit darker inside that inner part there. But then I'm going to come back and lift up a little bit of a highlight on that edge there. Okay. So some of you wondering, you can do this technique and also take it back into Photoshop as well and finish it up if you like to. I do that quite often too. I use this to rough something out. And it actually works really nice to put this into Photoshop and throw some values underneath it. A little bit of a highlight. Now, my tip's getting a little dull here, so what I'm going to do is come in here and watch this. I was talking about where I take my X-Acto and I just slice that end off. Now I have a nice round edge. It's going to have a nice sharp edge to it. So when I come in here to put a nice little highlight on that broom, that broom, I'm not too busy concentrating, not focusing on what I'm doing. A little bit of reflective light, highlight in the back there, just like that. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in there a little bit. It might be a little harder to see on the camera. There. So you can see this little highlight I have here. That's light bouncing back to it. I'm going to punch this one up here a little bit brighter. And then I'm going to come in here and just take my pencil on an angle and go across part of it and darken up a little bit of that tip. So you can see that highlight pop in there. Okay? It's working pretty good. Some of this line gets faded off here. I'm going to put a couple little thick and thin parts here. Okay, it's starting to feel pretty nice. I even come back and check some of my rope. Put the interior line that I had on there before. The little swirls of the rope. Okay. And that's working pretty good. I can even come back to and put in a little highlight on there as well, but I'm going to wait on that. Let me finish. I had some of this light coming down here. I want to finish what the shadow is looking like. It smeared in a little here. Here we go. Sort of define that a little bit better, like so. So the light's sort of coming off of this corner. Let me pull back out. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shake the camera there. Okay. Keep shaking it there. And I'm going to come in here and darken up this edge, this line of the shadow. Just a little bit. Okay, not too much. Because shadows tend to start from one particular light source. I'll cover this in the next lecture. They tend to start from a source and then they fade off as they progress forward. Okay, they delineate. And then what I'm going to do is, just to be a little touchy, I'm going to come over here and throw a part of the shadow casting over this edge and down like that. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. So I have a little bit of that shadow overlapping that edge there. And sorry, I keep knocking on my erasers all over the place. Pull this up right here. And now another little highlight up on the top of the rim. A little bit of reflective light up there on the top of that, okay? Come down here. And I made the interior of this section right here. I want that to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to throw also another little highlight here. They call reflective light, hitting that edge. I made a little mistake there. I'm going to darken it like that. I want that arch to be more definitive there. Pop out a little bit. A little bit darker underneath. And then on the inside of this, I'm going to darken it up in here. Because it's the inside there. I don't know what kind of light source is supposed to be in there. I want to push it a little bit more. Subtract a little bit of that dark off of there. Okay. Pop this highlight more. It's a dark against a light. Dark against lights create contrast. Okay. Also, I'm going to fix up some of this space in here. I have some smudged lines in there that need to be taken out. There, like that, okay? And then I have this cheap little, this is coming in and hitting that, creating a little bit of a tangent. So I'm going to pull this up a little bit, like that. Bring the ground down a little bit in the back there, like so, okay? So a little bit more detail area. Let's come into the rocks here. Thick and thin, you know, I might put a couple lines going across. Something to indicate a little bit of texture on there. I just left it sort of open right now. Darken this area a little. And see if I can put a little bit of a variation in the ground plane here. Everything's got highlights on it, right? I mean, you always have light reflecting, so I'm going to come in here and see if I can't brush a couple little... This is sort of a grass / hay surface. This is where, using this Pentel now, I have this nice edge on it. I'm going to see if I can't come in here and push some of this, highlight a couple lips or areas here. Alright, and let me come over, and I got some more. I hope this isn't taking too long for you guys. I'm just trying to show you exactly what I would do. If this was a studio project here, I would be putting this level of detail in it. So even though this is becoming a long lecture, I think it's worth it. Bear with me. Get a cup of coffee if you have to, because I think it's important to know this stuff. This translates also to being a good digital artist, you know, because a lot of what, when I work digitally, comes from my background of drawing and illustrating and knowing. What I might get in here and start to do is I have this sort of edge on here indicating that this goes back. I might darken this a little bit more here and see if I could pull a highlight out of the corner to make it look like this side of the house is receded back a little bit further than this rounding shape here. Okay. I actually only put a line in there, which is a little too dark, but I can take that off in a second. Might even, with the light coming across, I might even put the effect of what looks like a shadow of the hay coming in like that. That'll help anchor some of this down. Could be reflective light sort of bouncing back really softly to sort of come in here and pencil this in. This is where using a thinner little snub, little paper roll like this works. You see that little shadow line under there that I just did right here, and I'm going to come in and like that. Get that off in there. Okay. Still come back over to those doors where I have it really bright. It doesn't need to be that bright. I'll push it back down in a minute. I want to darken up some of the edges here. The inside. So I sort of jump over to parts. I did this area, and I feel like this area is working pretty good now. I'm going to come over and put a little bit of time in detail in here. I have some highlights here. They're a little bright on that wood, so I'm going to push those down a little bit with my Kleenex. And I feel like I need a little bit more. I had a weird line thing happening in the middle here. I'm going to see if I can't fix that. I made a mistake and didn't have a line go all the way over. Darken the side here of that door. Knock this down a little bit. Oops, a bit of a shadow here. Not the blue end, it's for my blue pencil. I'm coming here to the door now. Start really getting some full detail and darken up these little latches here. Those are supposed to be like a black matte latch. Make sure you can see some of that. I don't want to get too dark though. That's enough. Just hitting it with the pencil like that and then smearing it will get it dark enough to pop it. And then I have this latch here. I'm going to try to address this like it was a sphere with light hitting it. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of a coarse shadow in there. It's really tiny though, so it's hard to get some of that detail. And there's always a little shadow under the base of the door. Notice that in your house, it sort of runs across there. It helps anchor it down a little. Okay. And I haven't done really anything back up in here yet, so now I'm going to come in and put a little bit more information back there. So let's see what I want to do first here. I was darkening I had to make a decision if the hay is going to be lighter or the roof tile. And I think the hay should be lighter and the roof tile should be darker. So I'm going to go ahead, come in here, punch up some highlights, but I need some areas I didn't smudge all the way. Okay. And I'm going to come in and throw some highlights on the tip of those. Sorry for turning my piece all the time, but it's the easiest way to do this. Okay, and I'm going to come in and under some of those lines, those highlights darken a little bit. I've pulled back a little bit of the original line there to separate the roof and the hay that's there. Okay. And I will knock that down a little bit and a teeny bit here. Let me finish. I never got a couple highlights on there, a little highlight on this guy. Now I'm working upside down. Just trying to get this. And put a couple lines across the base of this, make it look like it's graded and a little bit darker. I didn't read too good. There it goes. Alright. Now the tile. You need to get me a new pencil. Alright. Zoom out a little bit so you guys see this okay. So now I'm just sort of finessing. I have what I like, a nice feel. I like this light coming in this way. I can come in here and darken a little bit of dark and light here. Look like there's a shadow maybe coming across here. So I can just lightly come in and darken this a teeny bit here and fade it off. Try to darken this side here by the chair. Darken, just little gradations fading off, coming out. So that way this looks a little bit lighter than what's back here. Sets up a little bit nicer mood in there. Okay. And let's go up and work on these tiles for a little bit here. I don't want to get too detailed into them, so I'm just going to try to punch up a couple little areas, put some lines across them. And then I'll hit them with a couple highlights at the very end. Okay. So I don't want your eyes looking at the tiles. So this is where, I want to eventually get some lost and try to get some lost and found edges. I keep penciling in some more line detail. I've seen this deteriorated. Okay. That hatch being open. A little bit of an edge there, and let me see if I can do a little highlight on there in the roof tiles. I think it's time to get a new eraser piece here. Okay, 1 second, guys. So I just took my X-Acto and took a little piece off the end again, so we can get a little bit of an edge on here. Try to pop a couple of those tiles. Let me see if I can zoom in for you here and show you what I'm trying to get done in this little area here. And then I'm going to hit around those highlights with a little bit of my edge here. Try to get 1 or 2 to sort of pop out. Okay. Darken a little bit under the hay. Make the hay pop out a little bit. Okay, that seems to be working pretty good, and then I'm going to smudge it in a minute. But really finely with this guy here. That way the hay pops out a little bit more. And you can still see an edge that represents where the tile should be. Okay. It's a little dark, but that's alright. I don't want you to look up there too long. Okay. A little bit of a highlight on the edge of the roof there. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker underneath. Okay, like that. So it sort of pops out a little bit. Push the tiles down a little. Darken under that roof edge there. Make sure to put these highlights back in. On the hay. That's pretty good. Okay, and zoom back out of this a little bit and see where I'm at. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Just to finish this up a little bit. I could keep noodling and putting some time into it, but there's a certain rough feel I like that's happening down here, and I want to keep some of that. Okay. Sorry about that. My dog started barking at something, and I had to let him outside real quick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to finish off this little area here. I don't want there to be too much detail on the door. I'll plot some highlights on the road that lead us in there. But right now I have some, I smeared some values in here, and I don't have anything really definitive in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off some of this section in here real quick. Okay. Get some of these shapes to pop out that are on the clothesline there. Okay. Alright, get most of this done here. And I just realized I missed a couple little spots. Darken these little clothespins here. Darken that up a little bit, and then I have the negative shape in here. There it is. I didn't put anything on this barrel here yet, so I'm going to come in here and darken the lines a little bit. They've been smeared a little. And I'm going to make the decision to, I think, darken the ring of it more than the wood. So I'm going to come over and place a little information like that. Darken the top of this guy. And then I'm going to see if I can't darken the side of them a little bit. Barrels are tricky because you get lots of little detail on them, but I don't want the eye to go just to the barrel itself, so. Okay. Come in here and darken this rope a teeny bit more. And darken the ends of the socks here. Okay, and let's see what else I want to do. Step back for a minute, sort of zoom out. That's feeling pretty good, so I don't want to keep going too much longer. I think all I'm going to do is darken a little bit more of the chimney here on the side, and then I'll pull a couple of the stones out a little bit. Okay, so same thing that I did here. If light's coming across here, I'm going to match that angle right here, and it might have a cool little shadow coming across on the other side here. Alright, and now I'm going to smudge that over a little bit here. Nice indication of light coming, and then I'll hit it with an eraser and pull a little bit of light out of the top of that brick there. Create that nice sort of light. And then I'm going to start to erase a little bit out of the top there. Oops. Let me zoom in a little bit for you here to show you exactly what I'm doing over here. Take a little bit of a highlight out of the stone. Help separate some of that stone from the base of the chimney. Like so. I'm going to push this down a little bit. It came a little too light there. Highlight fading across like that. And do a little bit more on this guy here. Okay. Darken up this little edge here where the shadow's casting. And come back here and darken this side here too a little. That's cool. I like the way that's starting to feel nice and soft. Okay. But you can see where the stones sort of pop out and separate, which is exactly what I sort of wanted, you know. Hit this wood here a little bit underneath it, have a little bit of a drop shadow there. Darken it just a teeny bit. And put a little bit of a shadow on the side. A little bit darker down here and gradate it up. To help turn that surface just a little bit. Pushing and pulling in shapes there. Okay, that's working pretty good. I've noticed things tend to look a little bit darker on my camera than when I'm doing them. So I'm looking up at my little miniature screen to double check how things are coming across here. It's nice. Should stop noodling. Leave it alone, Phil. Walk away. That's the hardest part sometimes. I'm going to zoom out a teeny bit. Okay, and so I like that look on the chimney there. I might blend a little bit more of that light coming across. Like that. Okay. Might get a little bit washed off because my lights are so dark. I mean, my highlights are pretty dark with these bright lights I have that I'm drawing around. Erase some of this over smear that's on here. Okay. Get this off, and now I might just come in here and see if I can't punch just a couple little areas or darks in here. I got this table part. I might make things a little bit darker back here behind these objects. Make them pop a little bit more. See if I can put a little bit more reflective light on that base. A little shadow there. A little bit of a core shadow. On it, just to make it pop a little bit more. Okay. So I think when I zoom out, I'm just about done with my little Prismacolor render here. I think the only other thing I want to do is lighten up some of these stones. They make interesting pathway towards the base here, the entryway of our little house here. Okay, darken this out a teeny bit more. A little bit dark line under where this is hitting the ground. Anchored this down. I didn't do anything really with the cherry yet. Let me see if I can just brush in a couple little highs. That's a hard one. It's small. I'll just hit a couple of the posts there. And let's see if I can't put a little bit of a dark line next to it. And what the chair needs, it looks like it's, let me zoom in on that for you guys a little bit. Some of this inner detail here. The chair looks like it's floating a little bit, so what I'm going to do is just put a very light sort of drop shadow underneath it. And maybe drift it over a little bit to the side here. And then I'm going to come in here and just sort of lightly smudge it in. Just like that. Just helps anchor it down a teeny bit. Okay? And do the same thing with the desk. A little bit of a drop shadow there. Okay, pretty cool. Get a little bit of an edge on this. Just like that. Couple little details here. I'm going to darken this up as well back here. Oops, I apologize. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's trying to just get some of that detail. So let's just finish this up. I know I keep saying that and I go into a little bit area, but you can see how much fun this technique is. You want to keep messing with it, you know. I want this rock to stick out here, so what I'm going to do is sort of darken a little bit of the ground in the front here. Okay, and I'm going to come in and smudge it a little bit around there. And I might add in another rock or two. I like this big rock here, one coming here, and then maybe a couple smaller shapes back here. Sort of that cobblestone look. Okay, like that. Oop, didn't mean to get a little tangent there, but I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to come in here and just sort of take a little bit off those rocks. Helps pop them out a little bit. So now they stick out a little bit. What's cool is they pull me back into my piece here. Maybe I'll have sort of, then come in here and have one right up here in the front maybe. The small one next to it, I think. A little bit more detail to keep us right up at the door. Like that. Okay. So zoom in there a little bit so you can see some of that. So there's the ones going up to the door. And I'm going to pull a little bit more of a highlight off of them. That way there's a little bit of a nice dark area in here. Put the stone there too. Okay, I'm going to darken underneath them a little bit. Go over on top of them to push them down a little. Okay. And then that works pretty good. So let's pull out here. And this got a little dark under there, so I'm just going to take my cloth here and fade it off a little. and hit it a little bit with my eraser. Dull it down and fade that off. See if I can't put another highlight or two in here. Alright, I think that's it, guys. I know I keep saying that and then I go back into it for another 10 minutes, but that's why you gotta love this stuff. It's fun. Alright, I think that's it. You know, so it hasn't been too bad. Maybe an hour or something in there, but a lot of little intricate details in here, which are pretty cool. And that's working in Prismacolor pencil, just to pull this off. You know, one thing I didn't do was here. Let me pull that up. This is how I'm going to darken this, literally this quickly. And come in here and just throw a grade on it like this. Get it to pop in there. And then darken up here. What's really fun too is you could do this technique with organics, works really nice as well. Alright, darken that interior a little bit more, and then I'm going to hit it with this, my stump. Darken it up just a teeny. There, so the inside isn't as, it's pretty cool. So that's it, guys. That's the end of this one. So this time I'm not going to touch it anymore, even though I still want to go in. I want to noodle little details there or whatnot, but it works pretty good. What I've done is I try to also balance out some highlights in here. I have some, highlight here, little highlights on some objects here so they pop out. I have this trail that comes in. I have some broken up stone that gives a little bit more detail, makes it a little visual interesting. So if I had to draw my little, I meant to say Smurf village or little hobbit house, this would be my first sketch and pass at it. Okay? So thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next lecture, okay? Take care.